Hey guys, Matt Train 1143. In today's video, I have blogger number 3 here on the KTMR Railroad. I know there hasn't been a blog video on the KTMR for about 3 months or so, and the main reason for that is because there hasn't been a lot to talk about. On the layout, we haven't got any new trains rather recently, even though we have got some stuff, but I'll explain about that later. But there hasn't been enough going on to where I needed to film a blog video, but now we're kind of into our work season a little bit, so we're kind of slowly starting to do stuff. So I figured that now it's time to give you guys a blog video because we've done a lot of stuff on the way out, and I'll show you guys this all in a couple minutes. But the scene that you're seeing right now, which is a picture of my F3s, the Burlington Legacy ones that just got back from Lionel. I'm only showing you this because this is the part of the layout that really hasn't changed much at all. So I'm just kind of giving you guys kind of what this area looks like now, because pretty much all the rest of the layout has changed, and I'll show you guys what has changed about in a couple minutes. But real quick before I do, just want to put it out as a little bit of a disclaimer that these parts that I'm going to be showing you guys, even though they're way different, they're still a work in progress. Parts are not finished at all. Even though they may look really good, they're not finished yet. So I'll explain what we got to do in spots when I show you guys them. But anyway, let's go take a look at some stuff, and we may even run some trains too while we're doing it. We'll see. Okay, so we'll start off by taking a look at some of the progress that's been happening on the layout. We'll start off with the yard. Now, before I show you guys the way the yard looks now, I think it's a good idea to show you guys what the yard looked like before we changed anything around. So before I even show you guys what the yard looks like now, let's take a look at what it used to look like. Okay, so as you guys can see, this is what the yard used to look like. While it looked really good, we have done some very visible progress to it in terms of making more room for our passenger trains, and I'll show you guys this in just a minute. But this is just a rough idea of what the yard used to look like. But now let's take a look at what it looks like now. Okay, so now that you guys seen a look at what the yard looked like before we changed it, here's a quick look at what it looks like now. This is kind of like an aerial view of the thing. But to get you guys a better understanding of how the yard looks and functions, let's take a little tour. Okay, so we entered the yard the same way as before through these double 072 switches. Then we have this yard lead, which is just 3 072 curves, and then we have this switch, which I'll get back to in just a second. Now, before we changed anything, this switch was just another plain 072 curve, and then we had a straight piece, and then we had our spurs. And if you need a visual of this, just take a look at the pictures that I just put up a minute ago, then you can get a rough idea of what that looked like. But anyway, we'll come off this switch to this spur track. Okay, so that switch leads off to this spur track where this Kansas City Southern passenger train is. Now, I have no idea how long the spur is, but all I know is that it's long enough to fit this whole train, which is an ABBA, and 10 18-inch passenger cars. So, that's really good. So this we did have to add on a little bit to the layout. We had to add on about 3 inches on either side for this to fit, but I'm very glad we have it because it's a monster spur for our monster passenger trains. That's how I like to call it. That's pretty cool. Okay, so you want to curve off that switch, then you'll come into this one, and if you go straight through that, you'll lead into this, which we'll talk about more in a minute. But if you were to do a curve, you'd come into this track. Now, this track is kind of funny because it starts as an 072, but right here is a piece of 042 curve. So some big articulators you can't fit in here, but passenger cars are fine, which because all the passenger cars run on 042 except the new Lionel 21-inch cars. Those run on 54, but you put those in some of the other ones. If you're wondering why I say that, because we're getting the cars to go with our MKT E8 that we got a little while ago, so those will be coming later, I think in November. So, but anyway, you're coming around this spur track, this blink one here. This is all 072 curve in here, and where the cooling tower and the water tower are, those are just sitting there temporarily. We moved them from a different location, which I'll talk more about in just a minute. But this leads down all the way to there. at the end there. Pretty cool. Okay, so now if you come straight back, you'll lead into these spurs. We'll start off by taking a look at this one here. We have some New Haven cars parked on it at the moment. Now this is just all 072 curves. Nothing really fancy about this one. The only thing special about this is you can fit a 7-car train on here, which is pretty cool. But other than that, there's nothing special about it. If you were to throw that switch straight, you'll come into this one here where the Texas is. Now this again, you can fit the same thing as the New Haven set. Although I have 6 cars on here because I got the Texas on there. But that's that. Nothing really special about that one either. Just a nice spur. And then if you were to come straight back onto this one where this New Haven Elko PA is, this spur actually did not change at all. This was the same spur that was on the end of our yard before. This didn't change at all. It's just a nice long spur to park trains on, which is nice. And then this one here, obviously, like I said, we branched out for that, but this one here didn't change from our original yard setup, which is really nice. Okay, so that takes care of the yard. I'm very happy that we redid it because now it's much more useful for what we need, especially us having our very long passenger trains that we have, including the Kansas City Southern Belle, which you see in front of the camera, and the MTH Empire State Express, and a couple of other sets that we have. It's very nice that we can now fit some bigger cars and bigger sets in the yard, which is very nice. Okay, so now that the yard's taken care of, let's take a look at another spot that we've done some work at. Okay, so this area here is where our lake is. So to put you guys in perspective, I'll just kind of turn the camera so you guys can see kind of where we were and where we are now. And again, just like with the yard, let's take a look at what this looked like before we changed anything. Okay, so before we changed anything around, one of the things that we had on this inside line, that's what we're looking at, is a engine service facility that we mostly use for our steamers. So let's take a look at that in action, and then we'll take a look at what we had after that. Adjacent to that engine service facility, we had this really nice wooden bridge that was below our lake. Okay, so now that you've seen a look at what this area of the layout looks like before we change anything, let's take a look at what it looks like now. Okay, so now let's take a look at what we have now. If I turn the camera, now you can see what we have a oil area. Okay, so now what we got is we removed the bridge that was here, And now we got this gray piece of plywood in its place, which once we ballast it, you'll never know. And then we put these spurs on here. So we got 2 spurs for our oil cars. Now we got these 2 MTH oil docks. I think that's what they're called. We got this one here, and then we got the MTH operating one. This is the one that's almost like the depleting color on the big boy. It comes up and then goes back down. Pretty cool. And then over here, these are the 3 Lionel Sunoco oil tanks. Now this one here is a little dusty, but these are them. They're pretty cool. So that's our oil rig. So what we'll do now is we'll take a look at what it'll look like switching cars in here. So I got this train here with the Vision Line genset. Let's pull it into this inside track.
Yes, 300. Coming down the lead. Over. Very good, 300. Work's done. It's time to go to mains. NS 300 out.
Okay, so that's pretty cool. That's just a quick little look at our oil field, which it's much more versatile now, especially being over here, because with all the oil cars we have so many MTH unibody tank cars, it's not even funny. We probably have about 300 MTH unibody tank cars. We have a ton of them, and that's just the unibodies. We got the Lionel hosed ones, like you see up on the shelf back there, and also a ton of the 20Ks. We probably got 20 or 30 of those. So we have a lot of tank cars, so to have an oil farm really isn't a bad idea. So that's pretty cool. So one other thing that we've done recently, and then we'll talk about some stuff that will be happening to the layout. Okay, so the last thing we've done on the layout is our control panel. Now, I don't have any good pictures of the control panel, so I can't do like a before and after, but what I'll tell you guys was that the control panel was here, about where this Kansas City Southern passenger car is. It was this way, and we just moved it over here. So that's pretty cool. So what I'll do, I'll move my computer, my phone, and I'll show you guys another cool part of this control panel. Okay, so when I first showed you guys the control panel a minute ago, all I showed you guys were the Z4000s that we use for our power. I didn't show you where our DCS TIU and all that was. That's under here, under this lift up part. There you go. We have our TIU, then we have these terminal blocks. Let's take a little better look into this so you guys can get a rough idea of what's going on here. Okay, so here's our DCS TIU, And what we got going on here with these terminal blocks is, before with our TIU we had 2 wires for each port. So we had 2 on black, 2 on red, and the same thing for the other 3 ports. But what we did was we made it so there's only 1 wire to each port, and we soldered these banana jack wires on here. So that's what these terminal blocks are for. So we got a ground and a power for each track. There's obviously 2 of them, that's why there's 2 different blocks. But that's what all that's about. And then back on this, that's our power for our legacy control wires. That's where those go. And then if we were to move to the opposite side of the control panel, this area here is pretty much used for storage. We have our DCS remotes that we use, and then we also have these new terminal strips. We just got these a little while ago, so we'll use those for like accessories and stuff. But that's really about it. We also did a little bit of wiring work. I'll quickly show you guys that, and then maybe we'll run some trains for a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to go under the table to show you guys this, but this is just some wiring work we did. We basically just stapled up the wires underneath the board to make it look nicer. That's all we did though. We did it mostly back in this section here. Maybe in another video, if you guys want to see it, I'll show you guys kind of what we did. I just don't feel like crawling under the table right now. It was about 3 or 4 days of work between doing the wiring and doing this. But it was hard work, especially for me, because I was the one under the table. And I need to thank my grandpa, because he's the one who did all of this work here. So I really need to thank him for doing this, because he did a fantastic job with this. And basically he's the one that got the trains running again, so thank you for that. But this looks really great now, so that's really good. So now what we'll do is we'll take a look at some stuff that's going to be happening on the layout, and then we'll run some trains. I haven't ran trains in a video for you guys in quite a while, so we'll run some trains for you guys. Okay, so the first project we're going to be diving into is going to be our Ross transfer table. That's this right here, in case you guys don't know. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving it. Where to, I'm not 100% sure yet. We're still kind of throwing around ideas, but it is going to move to a better spot. And then I think here we're going to put spurs of some sort. I'm thinking for like box cars, but we'll see on that. So once that gets done though, of course I'll show it to you guys. But obviously it's not done yet, so I can't show you. But that's that, and that's also why this track over here is ripped up. But that's that. So one more project that we're going to be working on, and then we'll run some trains. Okay, so the final project we're going to be diving into soon is going to be on these trestles that you see. These things right here. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing some very much needed modifications to these to make our engines run better. And by engines I mean our articulated steam engines like Big Boys and Challengers and so forth. Because on this inner one, this one, the problem with that, you see that pull, that gray pull between the 2 trestles. Well, the problem with that is we set that trestle, that inner one, without realizing our articulated steam engines. So the problem is when you try to run an articulated this way, they hit the pole. So what we'll do is we'll bring it back a little bit, so that way we can run the articulateds. And then this outer one here, we're going to replace these piers with some better piers. We're going to buy some from Bridge Boss to replace those. That'll be pretty cool, but that won't be for a little while. But of course when it does happen, I will show you guys. Okay guys, so that about wraps it up for this video. As you guys can see, we've been doing a lot of work on the layout, and it's much needed work, you know, especially the passenger yard. That's a big deal for us, because with our very long passenger trains we have, it's quite essential to have a very long passenger yard. So that's exactly what we did. And the other updates that I showed you guys, they're just plain cool. They really are. So that's awesome to see. And for the future stuff, we'll get that done slowly but surely. You know, one of the things that we're trying to do with our layout, and kind of the reason why we're trying to get a whole bunch of stuff done, is because our local train club that we belong to, they put on an open house usually in February of each year, and we're trying to get on it. We're kind of leaning towards it, so that's kind of why we're trying to get the layout as nice as we can if we decide to do it. So that's just kind of that. But if we decide to do it, I'll sure tell you guys about it. But I've helped my friend Rich. His name is Hudson Trainman on YouTube if you want to check him out. He's got a fantastic layout and awesome train collection. I helped him on his open house, and it was a ton of fun. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. So you can check out the video if you guys want. It's on my YouTube channel. And also his channel. He's got a whole channel himself. But that was really fun. Also, I went to his house a little while ago, and he gave me some really cool pictures and stuff. I'll show you guys them in my next blog video when I have a little more stuff to talk about. And plus, this video is really long, so. But that's gonna about do it. We really haven't gotten any more trains in. We did get a SP Vistadome car for our daylight, but it's not easily accessible right now because it's in the tunnel right now. But in my next video, I'll show you guys that if you want to see it. It's just a Vistadome. But it's a nice car. It's a very welcomed addition to the train. But that's that. So what we'll do now is we'll run some trains, and I'll sign off. I'm Matt, Train Level 943. You guys have a great one.